was that? Right as I freaking open up my car door, 12 throws up their lights. I'm like, Jesus, did I park that bad? No, somebody must have ran a red light or something over there. Not my problem. Not my freaking problem. So let's not think about getting incarcerated for unknown reasons and actually focus on what matters. Is it's back and rear delt day. So I tried the pullover machine last back day and I did like it. But I don't know, it's an interesting machine for me to say the least. Just because, I can get a really good squeeze on it, but it might just be this pullover machine in particular, but it's not like an awesome squeeze. It's not like perfect. Like when I do my single arm pullovers with a cable, like you take a cable for tricep pushdowns, you just grab the end of it, or maybe you put like a ball attachment onto it. You kind of stand a little bit off axis, and I do one arm pullovers like that. That's probably the lat movement where I can like get like, I don't even know how I'm trying to describe it. It's not like I'm moving the most weight, but I can contract my lats the hardest, right? Like, I mean, think about this. When you do bench, sure, you're flexing your pecs, but you're not getting that burning flexing. I was about to say flexation. Burning flexing sensation that you could get on like a pec deck right at the top of the rep where you're really squeezing. So, with the pullovers, I'm definitely not going to start the back day off with them. Maybe I'll have them somewhere in the middle. Super good stretch though. So I do like them, but sometimes I like it, sometimes I don't. It's like whatever. That's a movement where I'm going to have to do a feeler rep, see how it feels, and say, all right, do I want to do a whole set of this, or do I want to just do another set of pull downs like I know I'm going to like? Some movements are like that. Like squats, let's say your knees are a little bit touchy, your hips are a little funky. Apart from, doing a proper warm up and maybe a little bit of mobility work to try to improve your odds, sometimes you just kind of have to do a feeler rep or a couple reps or some warm up sets and then decide, all right, do I want to actually do some legit working sets here, or should I do something else? So I don't have a perfectly planned out routine that I'm about to bust out. All I know is I'm going to do some, well, there's going to be some staples in the back day for me. Lat pull downs with, a variety of handles. I kind of have to see, well, really, there's two things that I kind of have to think about when choosing what handles to use for the pull downs. For one thing, just which ones look good, but I'm not in the gym alone. There's other people. I got to see what's open. So let's say all the straight bars are taken, but there's like some mag grips or like some, parallel, what would you even call that? Oh, neutral grip pull down handle, right? Let's say those are open. Maybe I'll do those just because it's all I've got access to. You should change it up every so often too. So I guess that's one point towards public gyms. Adds variability to your training purely due to the fact that you've got to share shit. But yeah, I'll go back and forth. Usually, I'm not going to do a back day where it's all pull downs or it's all like rows. I'll do kind of a mix. Sometimes I'll do all my pull downs, so all my lat focused movements first, and then maybe I'll finish with rows. Sometimes I'll do it backwards. Sometimes I'll do 2 sets of pull downs, 2 sets of rows, 2 sets of pull, something like that, kind of an alternating style. But with back, I think as long as you get a really good back pump and you hit the whole thing, you're probably good. I don't think you need to focus on like a lat biased day or like an upper mid back biased day. I'm not saying that method won't work, but for me, I think even though you've got your lats, you've got your traps, you've got your rhomboids, like looking at the back in pieces, there's like 10 different muscle groups there. Why don't I train them individually like I do with shoulders? With shoulders, I hit side delts specifically, and I hit rear delts specifically. Why don't I do the same thing with back and like do 8 sets of lats, or like 8 sets of lat pull downs, and then 8 sets of like rows, You know, so 8 sets working the lats directly, 8 sets working like my more mid-back traps directly. I don't know. I mean, I kind of think about doing it like that, but you can't do rows without activating your lats, and you can't do pull downs without working a little bit of your mid-back. Not a lot, of course, but even though there's a lot of stuff going on back there, it's all pretty much a cohesive system that's working to, you know, let you go from holding something far from your body to bringing it in closer with load, of course. So whether that's up and down like a pull down, or towards yourself, or even maybe towards yourself in an upward direction, like with, you know, more shrug based movements, even though there's a lot of shit going on with your back, you're still just hitting your freaking back. So I think enough teasing the back day. Let's just find out what that first movement's gonna be. I think just throw around the full stack for a couple sets. That'll be a perfect opener. Okay. All right. Let's just do one more. Okay. All right. So, obviously, I would never want to do the first reps of the set like those last ones. That would be fucking stupid. But, you know, just getting to that level of fatigueness in the set where you can only barely move and that top stretched position, I don't think it's a bad way to go about it. So let's do some kind of row. Let's go back and forth between pull downs and like upper mid back stuff. All right, so I think I want to do one set with the whole stack, you know, throw it around, similar style to the pull downs. But for the next set, I mean, I'll almost drop the weight in half. Go way more controlled, slow, squeeze, hit failure that way. But, you know, whether you do heavy weight for maybe more brutish reps or lighter weight with really intentional, concentrated fucking flexing reps, as long as you go hard and you get a pump at the end of the day, you did something right. I feel like I've said that style of statement 100 times already. Okay. All right, let's fucking drop the weight. Okay. Okay. With those first couple reps on that set, I was trying to almost get my elbows to touch each other behind me. That was sort of the visual cue I was imagining in my head. And then, with that swinging, just try to fucking burn out until I could barely move the weight. You know, I don't, sure, you may be right in like a powerlifting context. You shouldn't go to failure for every set, but why would you not? I don't, it doesn't make sense in my mind. Why wouldn't you want to try to go as hard as you could on every set that you do, every chance you get? Like, it's not really freaking often where I think about leaving something in the tank and have that be a positive scenario. But let's go do some pullovers. I'm gonna try to put my hands a little bit closer this time, but otherwise same method as before. Really just try to squeeze my lats as hard as possible at the bottom. Okay. Oh. I like that, but honestly, I don't like it that much. Let's do a different kind of pullover. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, if you start a fucking movement, you do a set of it and you're like, this doesn't feel that right. Something about this feels a little off. Or if it's a chest day, if you do incline Smith and you're like, I don't really like this, dude. This kind of feels weird. Don't just do another 3 sets for no reason, right? Substitute it with another movement in the same category. So I don't like this pullover, but I know for a fact I'm gonna like some single arm cable pullovers, if you catch my drift. So let's go over there. So I was getting ready to do pullovers, but all the cables were taken, so I'll just do single arm pull downs instead. Still a lat bias movement, so I'll just play something to hype me up and then try to go as crazy as possible. Okay. All right. Let's friggin' find something to finish with. So I thought I was gonna finish with a rowing movement, but there wasn't really any at my immediate disposal. And for the most part, like, before I start a lift, I mean, I was just sitting here waiting for a lat pull down for 15 minutes. But mid-lift, I mean, I don't want to push the time in between working sets past, I'd say probably 4 is maybe the limit. You know, I'm not doing just 1 minute of rest on a timer and then I jump into another set. But if you're sitting around for more than 4 minutes, I mean, unless you're doing like some crazy ass squats where you really need it, I think you're just asking to lose the pump. So instead of waiting a little bit longer for some kind of row machine, I think I'll just finish with some mag grip pull downs. So that's, if you've ever seen these kind of fancy looking handles where it's not really a bar, it's almost like just holding onto a pad. They're cool, they're just different. I feel like I can really squeeze and get really deep with these handles compared to just a normal pull down bar. So, you know, again, just add some more fucking variability to your training, do new stuff. So light-ish weight, only a little more than half the stack. And I'll do some slow controlled burnout reps and then we'll go check the pump. Actually, I want to do a different song. All right. So that wasn't a set to absolute maximum physical failure. It was really just until I felt like it was good. You know. And if you ever do a set like that where it's not like you're totally pushing it to the max, at least make sure you definitely push it, you know. Because I could definitely see someone starting to think, like, you know, they do a set of RPE 5, so literally half of the max exertion that they could put out in a set, and say, oh, that was good. No. You know when you did a hard set. So let's go check the pump before we get into rear delts. All right, 8 sets of back with moderate intensity. You can always go harder, but I think that was pretty satisfactory based on my own personal fucking, I don't know, guidelines. Whatever. Basic gist that I'm trying to say in like an unnecessarily complicated way is, you know, if you push yourself hard. And you should be able to catch yourself if you're not, you know, pushing yourself up to that expectation. And ideally, you know, maybe I could do 2 sets that were kind of, you know, BS sets, right? The enlightened lifter will at least be able to catch himself and say, what the heck was that? And then go harder for the rest of the lift. The last thing you want to do is do a BS lift in its totality, have a crappy pump, probably be in a crappy mood. I mean, come on. You made it all the way to the gym from your house, right? You kind of, it just feels weird not to go hard. So, days, literal days, enough which I can count on both my hands until this cut is over. And don't think about it as the cut being over, just think about it as the bulk beginning. So let's run through some lat spreads and double bi shots and then finish rear delts. Oh my goodness. And same thing in freaking reverse. Holy shit. Oh my goodness. Let's just, the pump speak for itself. Let's go spam face pulls. All right, so if you've seen any of these back and rear delt days, then this should be no surprise. You know, with shoulders especially, I mean, for any muscle, I don't mind potentially just doing one movement for the whole lift. Like, if I'm doing incline bench or incline Smith, and I'm getting a really good pump, and I'm feeling super strong, and just everything's clicking, why would I want to leave that movement, right? Same thing with single arm dumbbell curls or whatever. And with a super simple muscle like rear delts, you know, there's not a lot of stuff going on. If you like reverse pec deck, or if you like bent over lateral raises, or if you like, you know, a length base pull, just spam it. So I'm just going to sit here for all 8 sets, and then we can go check the pump and get home to some food.
Is this thing broken?
I fixed it. It's not broken because I fixed it. All right. Let's go see if the rear delts are poking out more than normal now that they're pumped up. I'm inclined to believe that they are, but, you know, let's see it for ourselves. So there's kind of two levels to this gym. There's like the weight room on the floor, and then the cardio area up top. I was getting ready to just put the tripod up there and get like an above ground shot for one of those sets, but maybe next time. Seemed kind of silly, or not. Well, not silly, but it seemed like kind of a hassle. I don't want to walk up the stairs and have to walk back down. You know, I guess that's kind of counterintuitive based on how I'm always hyping up doing your cardio, but I want to do my cardio when it's dedicated cardio. Okay, I don't want to be walking up steps if I don't have to. You know, I'm going to use the elevator given the choice. So let's just check out these freaking side delts and then get home to. I kind of cooked in. I guess I sort of prepped in a sense. I cubed up like 3 pounds of raw flank, right? So cut them long ways, then width ways, whatever. Worcestershire soy sauce, garlic powder, onion powder, salt, pepper. Mixed all that up, put in a Ziploc, and I just threw that in the sous vide. So it's all perfectly cooked. But 3 pounds, I don't need that much all at once, so I'll just go home and probably, I don't know, maybe have another half pound, whatever. I'll weigh it out and track the macros, of course. I mean, that's a given. So let's get the exposure down just a touch lower. There we go. Right, so yeah, I mean, just fucking standing. That's what I'm looking for, with the fucking rear delt creeping over the bicep. Or no, over the tricep, as it were. Yeah. Now this is me standing with like good posture. Typically I'm a little bit more like this, but even still, you can see the rear delt freaking poking over the top. Oh yeah, there we go. That's what I'm looking for. See, that is something if I've ever freaking seen it. So I'm kind of hyped up that this is like, so just thinking about how your muscles work. Like, sure, you've got muscle mass where literally you have your fucking muscles that's making up how big they are. But a second level deeper than that, right? Your muscle size can change depending on how full they are, right? Fullness being, primarily dictated by the amount of glycogen, right? Carbs that you've got in your system. So if tonight I were to go home, well, let's for the first day of the bulk, and I'm probably going to jump from my 200 grams of carbs that I've been eating to 700, 800. All my freaking muscles, all my little vacuoles, whatever, if we want to get technical, they're just going to fill up with fucking glycogen. So right now, this is the flattest and smallest that my muscles are going to be. And they still got some cool shit going on. I'm not show ready lean. That wasn't the point of this cut. But triceps are getting kind of cool. You can start to see some craziness. Just a hint right there of some feathering. So with your triceps and your quads primarily, when your muscles get developed to a certain degree, they kind of take on this extra level of detail and grain. Like if I were to drop another probably 8 or 9 pounds, get super lean, like legit diced, and I were to hit this side tricep, you should start to see some lines coming across here, a little bit over here too. I can kind of see them creeping up just a little, but I'm not there yet. This, oh my goodness, this freaking rear delt pump check turned into a tricep pump check. Not that I'm complaining. So let's just get a reverse lat spread back to the bi and then roll. Okay. Actually, I guess I could do a side try. I always skip it. I don't know why I haven't been giving triceps the attention that they deserve. Ooh. Yeah, you see how the rear delt is poking out above the back of the tricep? That is most certainly what you're freaking looking for when it comes to your rear delt development. Everybody's going to have pretty solid front delts, just because from any pressing action, right? Sure, I'm getting this kind of center-based movement, whatever, flexing my chest, but I'm still getting some front delt, if you can see what I'm freaking saying. And then, nobody really neglects side delts too much. Everybody loves their lateral raises, as they should, but rear delts need a little bit more attention. Just as a general, observation of everybody, I'd say rear delts and hamstrings are some of the most neglected muscles on your frame. Calves, I mean, I see people hitting calves. Everybody should probably hit calves more. You kind of don't see them so much. Maybe I'm just being a chump by not including calves. But rear delts, that is going to give you a significant change in the way that your fucking shoulder looks. Like for me to sit here and look at it from this angle with the rear delts poking out the side versus like, let's jump into an alternate reality where I didn't hit rear delts at all. And this was a lot flatter and smaller, and like my front delts were kind of taking over. It would look a lot different, even if my side delts and my front delts were the same size. So just having the rear delts be developed enough to fully cap the back of your shoulder. I mean, the idea of getting to that level should motivate you enough to spam face pulls or reverse pec deck or fucking, whatever else. So that's all I got to say. Let's get in the car and get out of here. It was a solid lift, as always. There we go. It's time to eat. I'm freaking hungry. So, what have I even eaten today? Let me pull up the stupid simple macro tracker and find out. 1,454 calories, the likes of which was comprised of some low-carb peanut butter and jellies with, powdered peanut butter instead of normal, low sugar jelly instead of normal, and then Live Carb Smart buns. So basically low carb bread, right? Really high fiber. It's got a lot of insoluble dietary fiber, which you kind of have to know to look for it when you look at a nutrition label on something. But something could say 20 grams of carbs total, right? 20 grams of carbs total per whatever amount of serving, whatever. And then underneath that, it's got, sugars, whatever, and it also should say fiber. Now, for the most part, it should say soluble or insoluble. Right? When you see 10 grams of insoluble fiber, right, that means that amount of carbs, because technically fiber is carbs, right? It's still like cellulose, whatever. But when you see any amount of carbs right next to insoluble fiber, you don't have to count that. Right? If it says 20 grams total, but 10 grams insoluble, right? Insoluble, all that's saying is your body can't break it down. It's like how, freaking horses can eat hay and they can break it down because technically the hay is still made of like carbs, but the way that they're composed, like you can't eat freaking hay, right? That's soluble, or that fiber for us, it's insoluble. You can't break it down. So it just kind of passes through you. It doesn't contribute to your daily caloric intake. So I guess that tip is only worth noting for anybody who's already tracking their macros, which they should be doing. So, when I tell you to track your macros and I tell you to, do your cardio, the way that I'm trying to tell you to do that, or the way I'm kind of advising, I do not mean for you to just go from 0 to 100. I don't want you to just go from not tracking anything to immediately track everything, every little detail, every minute, everything, whatever, and go from doing no cardio to like every day, 30 minutes in the morning, whatever. Like, I guess hypothetically that would be a good scenario if you could do that, but that's not how I did it, right? I eased into it, you don't just jump from like, in terms of, let's just use a fucking video game kind of reference, whatever, and let's say stupid simple macro tracker, the game. You don't jump from level 0 to level 100. 0 being you don't track jack, you don't have it downloaded. 100 being you track everything and you kind of have developed a skill to literally like look at food and be able to estimate with a reasonable accuracy how many grams of carbs and fats and protein are in it. You don't just go from 0 to 100 like that. You kind of learn it, right? over time from tracking my stuff, I mean, I didn't even track carbs or fats at the beginning. The only thing I tracked when I started lifting was protein at first, which in terms of lifting and like, muscle gain, whatever, it's probably the number one factor in terms of something you should be hitting. They're all important, but you you got to hit your protein, man. Even if you're just main gaining, you need that pound per, or you need that gram per pound of body weight at least. I don't think there's much benefit in going too much higher, and there's probably, well, like anything, it's a range of effective amounts. But, if you're curious about how much protein you should be eating per day as a beginner lifter or whatever, do your gram per pound of body weight. So if you're a 150-pound dog, you need 150 grams of protein. I guess you don't need it. You can live off of less, but I'm saying, giving yourself the best set of circumstances possible to gain some muscle, right, to put some beef on your frame. I'd say sticking to that 1-to-1 ratio is probably good. I'm like 230 now. I woke up this morning at 230, but I still do 250 grams of protein, so technically a little more than a gram, but whatever. That's only like barely more than a gram per pound. So, back was solid. Good combination of those pull downs and rows. I wouldn't have minded actually finishing with a set of machine rows instead of those pull downs, but the machine was taken and there was kind of a lot of dudes sitting there, so I'm like, yeah, whatever, pull downs will be good. Still got a freaking solid pump, and I pretty much feel like I stimulated my whole back. And rear delts as the finisher. For me, in my particular set of circumstances, the main part of this lift and my chest and side delt day, the main part of it is chests, and the main part of today is back. Once I finish that, then I do side delts and rear delts. I don't want to say without as much intensity, but it kind of is without as much intensity, because my shoulders are developed enough. I'm really just trying to maintain them, give them some stimulation. I'm not trying to blow them out of the water. If I thought my shoulders were really behind, then I'd probably hit them just as hard as I hit everything else on my frame that I'm trying to grow. So don't look at your own build. Let's say I'm getting deja vu. I feel like I said this exact speech either yesterday or the day before, but I'll say it anyway. If you look at your back and it is freaking huge, you got a freaky ass back for whatever reason, man. Genetics blessed you in terms of the back department, but your chest is slacking, then maybe you got to make that little adjustment to your workout split, and maybe only do back once a week, or hit back with a little bit less volume, so you can kind of prioritize growth on your weaker muscles, which you're trying to bring up. So if my triceps happen to be absolutely huge and overpowering my biceps, I'd probably maybe I'd still do my arm day, but maybe I would do half the volume for triceps just because they just don't need them, and I would do as much as I would anyway for bis. But for the most part, it's a little bit, I'd say it's more common to have a lagging muscle group than it is to have one that's ahead of the game. So if you've got one that's particularly lagging, right, then maybe you should try to hit that one a little bit more frequently, right, a couple more times per week than everything else. If you do a normal like push-pull legs or whatever split, where you hit everything about twice a week, maybe try to tweak it somehow and write out a little Google sheet or get a piece of paper and try to figure out a way to make a workout routine where you can hit everything twice a week like normal, but let's say your chest is slacking, maybe you hit chest every other day, right? Improve its frequency. I'm not saying that, making that one adjustment to the frequency of hitting the muscle is going to change your results completely and your chest is just going to blow up. But clearly, if you've been doing the same thing for a considerable amount of time and with a considerable amount of discipline, right? If you've actually been doing a legit routine for months, okay, not 4 months, but for months, and you've been going hard and you're not seeing the results that you want, this is not a roast, but you just kind of have to, make some adjustments, because if you're trying to stimulate a muscle to grow and it's not growing, more likely than, oh, I just have bad genetics. I just have bad chest genetics. I can't grow my chest. Right? More likely than that is you're just not stimulating it in the way that is necessary for your particular build. That's kind of why I say all the time, like, I can say whatever routine or workout split, and like I could kind of, if somebody asked me to write out a routine for them, sure, I could write it out, but would that be the best routine for them specifically? Right? If I don't know and I'm not like tracking them week by week, like, I guess if you're a legit coach, if you pay someone to coach you, then that's cool. They'll adjust your routine accordingly, so you don't have to think about it. But I kind of feel like the best way to go about this whole lifting thing or whatever is trying to figure out what works best for you, right? Making a routine that kind of fits whatever needs or particular situations that your physique happens to have. And then just by doing that and making those little tweaks and adjustments and like trying new splits and trying things out for yourself, seeing changes being made, stuff like that, for you to go through that process like a fucking heat-seeking missile, right? Constantly making adjustments based on, current information and then trying something else, right? Just by doing that, of course, you're gonna fucking hit your target eventually, but that kind of takes time. So, as a beginner, right? Because a large portion of you guys are still in your first year of lifting, as I've found out based on some studies, aka a YouTube poll. Do your push-pull legs, do the Arnold split, do whatever. Just get some training experience, man. Get started. Just by going to the gym for a year, or for let's say going to the gym for 6 months, right? You at this 6 month mark here versus you at this year mark, even if you haven't really learned a ton of new stuff, even if maybe you've been doing sort of the same routine, you at that year mark versus the 6 month mark, you're gonna have so much more training experience. And just by having that, your training should be more effective, right? Your mind should be trained in a sense to be able to go harder, as long as you have been trying to go harder. I guess if you just train like a slacker for a year, then you're not going to get any results. But I don't think anybody is trying to do that. So 10:38. I spent a considerable amount of time chatting afterwards. I'm definitely getting kind of hungry. I got a ton of class tomorrow, and then before the bulk starts, I'll get one more full day of eating for you. Full day of, I guess, technically full day of cutting. And then I'm already like, I think I should make a little list. I gotta pull up the notes app or whatever and start writing out treats that I want to get. I can already think of a couple, but I guess I won't spoil it. But I've got some sweet treats in mind. And not just treats. Obviously, I'm gonna eat fucking normal food too. I'm not just eating a whole day of treats. But if I want some simple sugars in my system, guess what? Guess where I'm gonna get them? I'm gonna look at a bag of Skittles or something along those lines, and I'm gonna say, yep, that's gonna freaking give me a solid ass pump later on, being fully carved up like that. So cardio in the morning, and then tomorrow is gonna be arms. Pretty freaking hyped up for arms. My forearm's been feeling better. It's not a legit injury. I wouldn't classify it as that intense, but it's more of like a little, let's just say ache and pain that I kind of flare up every so often. Yeah, go for it. All right, I'll go. It's, the standard awkward moment of fucking, going through a crosswalk and someone doesn't want to let you go. Just like you, man, I gotta deal with this shit. Yeah, I'm just goofing. So, home, steak. I don't have a lot of room for carbs left because I've got 100 grams of protein still to eat. So I think I might just try to do the steak and then get to bed as soon as possible. The easiest way to not cheat on your diet and go overboard with your calories at night is to just get to sleep. The later you stay awake, the more time that you're going to have to spend hungry, right? So, let's say you're cutting down, you got 500 calories left if you're going to hit your Well, if you're aiming to hit your specific calorie goal for the day, right, maybe get that 500 calorie meal in right before you go to bed. Like, get everything else sorted that you have to do, your laundry, your homework, everything else. Eat that last meal and go to bed feeling full. That'll make it way easier to make it through the night. I mean, I'm not cutting so hard that I like can't sleep and I have to wake up to like, go eat something or whatever. I'm not that crazy about it. I'm not like Takamura, if you know what I'm saying. But still, nighttime is when people are going to be most prone to bust out their freezer, get some ice cream, right? Make some kind of other random treat that they've been craving or, whatever. So, for the most part, I end up trying to, I'm not really going to say I fast. I'm not really into the whole fasting thing. I'm not saying it doesn't work or anything like that. I'm not hating on it, but whatever. But I do try to not eat so much in the morning or in the first half of the day. I got my 2,500 calories to eat. I got to spread that out the whole day. And if I want to, maintain a baseline level of like, fullness and try not to be hungry too much, then I've got to be responsible with how I spread it out. So if I had a 1,000 calorie breakfast, 8 o'clock, I already had almost half my calories for the day. Not ideal. So maybe I just have 300 calories something. Maybe like oh, yeah, that was pretty good. I was doing these little ham cheese melts for breakfast, and I had 2 of them. Super good. Oh, yeah, I could put pickles on. Oh my God, now I'm thinking about it. I'll do that. Maybe I'll do that for tomorrow. I'll stop at Kroger or something. But whatever. Right? Typically having a small breakfast is something that I would try to advise if you're sort of in a cutting phase, if you're trying to hit that calorie deficit. Now, the exact opposite is true if you're trying to bulk up, right? If you're trying to bulk, let's say your goal is 3,500 calories, and you get 1,000 down in breakfast as soon as the day starts, dude, you're in. That's a perfect start. The last thing you want to do is get to like 5 p.m. and you still have like 2,500 calories left. I'm not going to say that you can't get it down, because sure, you probably can, whatever, but it's going to be way easier to do it in an evenly distributed method, right? What do you think is going to be easier? Eating like a 1,500 calorie lunch, a 1,500 calorie like, post-workout meal, and then a 1,500 calorie meal like before you go to bed, or maybe like a couple 800 calorie meals spread throughout the day, right? It just kind of makes sense. So, and that's something where you don't have to really hear me say it. Just by starting to like track your macros, and if you tried to diet down or bulk up, and you were kind of aware of what you were doing, you were really like looking at everything that you were eating and noticing how easy it was or how hard it was to get all your calories in on one day or the other, then you would just notice that, right? You would just sort of notice this trend line and come to the same conclusion that I'm just saying now. So if you've been on the fritz about a bulk or a cut, I can't necessarily tell you which one is better, but in terms of overall progress, you gotta pick one. You need to freaking pick one. Right? What's I forget how to quote it. Something about a ship with no direction. Whatever, you know what I'm saying. If you're just in a constant state of maintenance, then what are you doing? Like, if that's your end goal, well then you're killing it. Fuck yeah. But if you want to kind of gain size over time and you're not really noticing that you're gaining so much anymore, dude, you got to do something. Right? Either cut down, get yourself primed for a solid bulk later on, or start bulking up, put a little bit of excess body fat on you, coupled with some legit beef, some muscle, and then, once you've had enough, once you've got to a weight that you're satisfied with, then, cut down, kind of reveal what you built underneath. Don't try not to do anything aimlessly. I'll say that's probably a good overarching tip for this whole lifting, dieting situation that we're all in. Try not to do anything too aimlessly. It's my little piece of advice for the night, and that's for me too. When I say all this shit, don't act like I'm a fucking, monk. Don't act like I'm like a, I don't know. Don't act like I'm all knowing and all wise. Half the time that I say whatever kind of advice or tips and stuff like that, I'm not necessarily just telling you. I'm kind of like, sort of trying to instill it in myself as well. So let's keep lifting. Try not to think about bulking too much, and then I'm already freaking excited for the bulk, man. Let me just get home and eat my food. I'll freaking see you next time.